Any man in this arena brave enough to step into the ring with me will win $500 cash. The wrestler's voice boomed through the Miami Convention Center on a Saturday night in 1976. Gorilla Greg Hansen, 280 pounds of muscle, a professional wrestler with 15 years in the business, stood in the ring with a microphone, scanning the crowd of 3,000 people. This was his signature move at these exhibition shows: challenge the audience, embarrass some random volunteer, make himself look tough, go home with the paycheck. Nobody ever took the $500 because nobody ever lasted more than 30 seconds. Greg pointed at a man in the third row wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses. "You, yeah, you in the cap. You look like you might have some fight in you. Want to try your luck?" The man shook his head. "Come on, what are you, scared?" the wrestler taunted. The crowd started chanting, "Do it! Do it! Do it!" The man in the cap slowly stood up. He removed his sunglasses first, then his baseball cap, and the entire arena erupted in recognition. Muhammad Ali. The wrestler's face went from cocky confidence to pale terror in exactly 1 second. "Oh, shit," Greg whispered into the microphone, his voice still carrying through the arena. "That's Muhammad Ali." It was March 13th, 1976, at the Miami Convention Center. The main event was a wrestling exhibition featuring several regional professional wrestlers putting on a show for the local crowd. These weren't WWF stars. These were journeyman wrestlers who worked the circuit, doing shows in convention centers, high school gyms, small arenas across Florida and the Southeast. Gorilla Greg Hansen was one of the veterans. At 38 years old, he'd been wrestling professionally since 1961. He'd never been a champion, never been a headliner, but he'd made a decent living entertaining crowds with his persona, the tough guy who challenged audience members and always won. The routine was simple and effective. Halfway through the show, Greg would grab the microphone and issue an open challenge: $500 to anyone who could last 30 seconds in the ring with him. The crowd would get excited. Greg would scan the audience, looking for the right volunteer, someone big enough to make it look impressive, but clearly not trained in any real fighting. Over the years, Greg had fought college football players, construction workers, bouncers, amateur bodybuilders. He always won. The key was picking someone who looked tough but wasn't actually a fighter. Greg would throw them around, do some theatrical wrestling moves, pin them, and collect his applause. The $500 was never actually paid out because nobody ever won. What Greg didn't know that night was that Muhammad Ali was in the audience. Ali had come to Miami for a training camp before a scheduled fight. He was staying at a hotel downtown, and on this particular Saturday night, he decided to check out the wrestling show with 2 friends from his camp. Ali loved professional wrestling, loved the theater of it, the showmanship, the way wrestlers worked the crowd. It reminded him of his own approach to boxing. Ali arrived wearing civilian clothes: jeans, simple shirt, a baseball cap pulled low, and sunglasses. At 36 years old and still heavyweight champion, Ali couldn't go many places without being mobbed, so the disguise was necessary when he wanted to just relax and watch something without turning into the main attraction. He bought a ticket like everyone else, found a seat in the third row with his friends, and settled in to watch the show. For the first hour, everything was fine. Ali was enjoying himself, laughing at the theatrical moves, appreciating the performance. Then, Greg Hansen got in the ring for his audience challenge segment. "Ladies and gentlemen, I am Gorilla Greg Hansen. For 15 years, I've been the toughest wrestler in the Southeast. And tonight, I'm offering $500 cash to any man brave enough to step into this ring and last 30 seconds with me." The crowd cheered. This was a popular part of the show. Greg started scanning the audience, his eyes moving across the rows of spectators. "Come on, don't be shy. $500. That's serious money. All you gotta do is survive 30 seconds. Who's man enough?"
Ali's friends were already smiling, sensing what might happen. Ali tried to avoid eye contact, pulling his cap lower. But Greg's gaze landed on him, on a man in the third row who, even sitting down, looked athletic, looked like he might have some muscle under that shirt. "You!" Greg pointed directly at Ali. "Yeah, you, in the cap and sunglasses. You look like you might have some fight in you." Ali shook his head, trying to wave Greg off. "What's the matter?" Greg taunted, playing to the crowd. "Are you scared? Is that it? Big guy like you, scared of Gorilla Greg?" People around Ali started turning to look at him. The spotlight operator swung the light toward the third row, illuminating Ali's section. "Come on," Greg kept pushing. $500, easy money, or are you just going to sit there like a coward?" That's when the crowd around Ali started chanting. It began with a few people in the rows behind him, then spread like wildfire. "Do it! Do it! Do it!" Now hundreds of people were joining in, stomping their feet in unison, clapping their hands, creating a thunderous rhythm that filled the entire convention center. It was the kind of crowd energy that feeds on itself, growing exponentially. Greg, in the ring, was loving it. He had the crowd worked up, had them pressuring this random guy to accept his challenge. This was going exactly the way these segments always went. Soon the guy would reluctantly agree, Greg would embarrass him for 30 seconds, and everyone would go home entertained. What Greg didn't know was that he was 30 seconds away from the most humiliating moment of his professional wrestling career. Ali looked at his friends, shook his head with a smile that said, "You guys are going to love this," and slowly stood up. The chanting continued, the crowd not yet recognizing who he was, just some random guy from the audience accepting the challenge. Ali reached up and removed his sunglasses first. Some people in the immediate vicinity started to recognize him, gasps, pointing, excited whispers. Then Ali removed his baseball cap, and the entire arena exploded. 3,000 people simultaneously recognized Muhammad Ali. The roar was deafening. People were screaming, standing on their chairs, pointing, laughing, absolutely losing their minds. Greg Hansen, still in the ring, still holding his microphone, had no idea what was happening. He was confused by the sudden eruption of noise. What's going on?" he said into the mic, genuinely baffled. Then he looked at the man he'd challenged, really looked at him for the first time, saw the face, recognized the most famous athlete on the planet. "Oh, shit," Greg said, and because he was still holding the microphone up to his mouth, those two words carried through the entire arena's sound system, crystal clear. The crowd went even crazier, laughing at Greg's reaction, at the situation, at what was about to happen. "That's Muhammad Ali," Greg said into the microphone, his voice now carrying a mix of disbelief and terror. Ali, playing to the crowd now, did a little shuffle with his feet, that famous Ali shuffle, and shadowboxed as he walked toward the ring. The crowd was going absolutely insane. Greg's brain was racing through his options. He could back down, apologize, say it was all a joke, but that would make him look like a coward in front of 3,000 people. He could go through with it, treat it like a friendly exhibition, but he'd just challenged Muhammad Ali to a fight and called him scared. There was no good way out. Ali climbed through the ropes and stepped into the ring. He took off his shirt, revealing the physique of a heavyweight champion still in his prime. The crowd's roar somehow got even louder.
Greg, trying to salvage some dignity, extended his hand for a handshake. "Champ, I didn't mean any disrespect. I didn't recognize you." Ali shook his hand, smiled, then spoke into Greg's microphone. "You offered $500 to anyone who'd last 30 seconds. I'm just taking you up on your offer." The crowd loved it. Greg, now committed, tried to make the best of the situation. "All right, folks, we got a special challenge here tonight. The rules are simple. If Muhammad Ali can last 30 seconds without getting pinned, he wins $500. Ali raised an eyebrow. I thought the deal was I just had to last 30 seconds. Now you're saying you have to pin me." The crowd laughed. That's the rules," Greg stammered. "All right," Ali said. "Let's make it interesting. If I last 30 seconds and don't get pinned, the $500 goes to that kids' hospital fundraiser I saw on the poster outside." The crowd applauded. Ali had just turned this into charity and made Greg look petty if he refused. "Deal," Greg said, trapped. A timekeeper rang the bell. The 30 seconds started. What happened next was beautiful theater. Greg, trying to salvage some dignity, attempted to grab Ali in a wrestling hold, but Ali's footwork, honed by 20 years of boxing, made him impossible to catch. Ali danced around the ring, slipping every attempt Greg made to grab him. "Come on, Greg," Ali taunted, using the shuffle. "You're supposed to be the tough guy." The crowd was in stitches, loving every second of this. Greg, getting frustrated and embarrassed, lunged at Ali more aggressively. Ali sidestepped, and Greg stumbled into the ropes. When Greg turned around, Ali was right there, and in one motion, Ali picked Greg up, all 280 pounds of him, and body-slammed him to the mat. The arena shook with screams and applause. Ali had just executed a perfect wrestling move on a professional wrestler. Greg, lying on the mat, was too stunned to move. Ali stood over him, not going for a pin, just standing there in the classic Ali victory pose, arms raised, looking down at his opponent. The timekeeper rang the bell. 30 seconds had elapsed. Ali had won. The crowd went absolutely ballistic. People were throwing programs in the air, stomping, screaming Ali's name. Greg Hansen finished the show, but everyone knew that the actual main event had been Ali accepting an open challenge from a wrestler who didn't recognize him. The story spread immediately. By Monday morning, newspapers across the country were reporting on it. "Ali crashes wrestling show" was the Miami Herald's headline. "Wrestler challenges wrong random guy, gets body slammed by Muhammad Ali," ran in the New York Daily News. Sports Illustrated did a short feature with the headline, "The $500 Challenge That Went Wrong." Local television news ran footage from the event. Someone in the audience had been filming with a home video camera, and the footage became one of the most requested segments in Miami TV history. Watching Greg say, "Oh shit," into the microphone, watching Ali do the shuffle, watching a professional boxer body slam a professional wrestler, it was pure entertainment gold. For Greg Hansen, the moment became the defining story of his wrestling career, and not in the way he'd hoped. For the rest of his career, whenever he was introduced at shows, the announcer would inevitably mention that time he challenged Muhammad Ali. At first, Greg was embarrassed by it, tried to avoid talking about it. But eventually he embraced it, started telling the story himself at wrestling conventions and fan events. His version, told with humor and self-deprecation, always ended with the same line. "I learned 2 important lessons that night. 1, always recognize who's in your audience before you issue an open challenge. 2, never ever call Muhammad Ali scared. And 3, okay, I learned 3 lessons. If you're going to challenge someone to a wrestling match, make sure they're not a world champion athlete who can pick up 280 pounds like it's nothing." The wrestling promotion milked the publicity for all it was worth. They paid the $500 to the Children's Hospital as promised, took out full-page newspaper ads about Ali's appearance and the charitable donation, and sold out their next 5 shows in Miami. They even tried to get Ali to come back for another appearance, offering him a percentage of ticket sales. But Ali politely declined. He'd given them their moment of fame. That was enough. As for Ali, he loved telling the story too. In interviews years later, he'd laugh about it. "Man wanted $500 worth of entertainment? I gave him $500 worth of entertainment, except I gave it to him for free and donated his money to charity." The incident became one of those perfect Ali moments, spontaneous, entertaining, generous, and utterly unforgettable. It showed what made Ali special. He could have embarrassed Greg completely, could have made him look like a fool. Instead, he turned it into theater, into charity, into a story that everyone involved could laugh about afterward. If this story of mistaken identity and instant regret moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded to always know who you're challenging before you issue the challenge. Have you ever seen someone challenge the wrong person? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to ring that notification bell for more incredible true stories about the moments when underestimation meets reality.